If one be gone, we carry on. The Hill Path. As winter settled over the hills of Mornwald, the Empire and the Yatun clashed in bloody warfare that raged back and forth across the territory. In the end, the Yatun were forced to choose between retreat or being surrounded, thanks to clever Imperial strategy. Their armies withdrew to Ashvale, leaving behind Jarl Harkon Gideson, the former ruler of Mornwald, with a significant force of Yatun champions at Farstrider's watch. During the winter solstice, with the aid of the Eternal Realms, Imperial heroes used the Sentinel Gate to launch a pinpoint strike aimed at eliminating Harkon. The attack was successful. The Jarl was defeated in honourable battle, his forces scattered and forced back to the protection of the Watch standing sentinel over the greensward. As spring approaches, most of the forces fighting over the Mornwald have retreated. The exception are the Drakes and, of course, the Tusks, who stay behind to deal with the remaining Yatun bands who refuse to give up their control of the central regions of the Morn. They move steadily, careful not to waste lives and focused on the ultimate goal of liberating the Morn. The healers and physics have their work cut out for them. Many of the champions who fight in the name of the defeated Jarl are true veterans, experienced in facing Marcher soldiers, and know the hills well enough to be a challenging foe. Not only armies fight in Mornwald. A frozen citadel is raised in Southmoor to defend Sarkum, and a ward of spring magic wreathes the forests of Alderley in thorns and brambles and brings with it unexpected assistance. Swift figures with long ears are spotted in the grasses and the hedgerows, servants of the prince with 1,000 foes. They have little affection for armies, but they have even less for would-be conquerors. Their aid is subtle, and mostly consists of ensuring the farmers and families caught between the Marcher hammer and the Yatun anvil are spirited to safety. Yet, from time to time, they, or those they assist, provide valuable information about the movements of this warband or another, ultimately aiding in the Imperial advance through the hills and farms. Wherever the Marcher armies go, they are met with cheers from the folk of the Morn. Outsiders often see the Marchers as staid and restrained, but that is not the case here. Hidden supplies of food and drink kept from the Yatun are broken open whenever a band of Marcher soldiers liberates a village or a farmstead. Nobody who fights for the Morn will need to pay for a hot meal or for a cold room in an inn in the coming months. The sense of pride in the brave folk of the Tusks and the Drakes is palpable. The miners of the Ore Hills join the battle to drive the Yatun out, and make their own supplies and hidden tunnels available to the Marchers. Human and Orc alike, there are folk who have had enough of the Yatun and put their lives at risk to help drive them out once and for all. The recruiters of both the Drakes and the Tusks are approached by Marcher Orcs who have heard the voice of their ancestors, urging them to take up their blades and forge their path as heroes. There is some uncertainty in the ranks as to how to deal with this. The would-be soldiers are no better or worse than any other green recruits, but they appear sincere in their belief that they are sacrificing their chance to be reborn for their single chance to join their ancestors, who, presumably Yatun, across the abyss. Recruiter and human soldier alike are a little unclear as to what to make of this. For the most part, though, there is hard fighting and victory aplenty in the Mornwald. As the winter ages and is reborn in spring, so the Marchers drive the Yatun out of the Ore Hills and push into the Chalk Downs. The Mornwald is imperial, but it is far from secured. The allies of Jarl Harkon remain in full control of the greensward, and there are still plenty of doughty Yatun warriors in the northern farmlands. The barbarians dominate Ashvale, Liathavan, and at any moment the king or the queen could send armies streaming out of the trees into Greenmarch, Alderley, or Southmoor. Even a couple of armies would likely be sufficient to provide a major challenge to the Marcher armies, reinforced as they would be by the garrison of Farstrider's watch. The battle for the Mornwald is far from over. Causeway o'er the marsh. While the Tusks and Drakes clash with Yatun champions in the Mornwald, the strong reeds keep their vigil over the marshes of Bregersland. Last summer, the Yatun barbarians invaded Gravenmarch, widely known as the only dry land in Bregersland. The Fist of Ulven and the Southern Bear quickly captured Graven Rock and the town of Graven, killing a number of Navarre traders in the process. During the solstice itself, the iced fishers of Ledansk received the aid of the king under the mountain and secured the return of the Barfest, a magical citadel drawn from the Summer Realm in ancient times. The Imperial Military Council took the hard decision not to interfere, sending the heroes of the Empire to challenge the Druj and eliminate Governor Rahab. As a consequence, the citadel rose from the Great Pebble, providing a powerful bulwark and anchor for the Yatun forces. The Godi Feraldi Blutzen established themselves Castellan of the Burfast, securing a supply route back to Leoth's Ring in Ashvale, and then seemed content to watch what was happening. The strong reeds, who were already in the marshes, kept a watch of their own. In accordance with the solemn oath sworn by their general to protect the Brega's people, they swiftly deployed their unique strategic ability to lay low to stay among their fellows, no matter what the Yatun might try next. And the Yatun tried nothing. A handful of raids into the western fens and across the border into Mittwold, but nothing more serious. The Ice Fishers took residence in the magical fortress that emerged around Graven Rock and seemed content to simply command Gravenmarch. Or so it seemed. Tame your fears. A fortnight after the winter solstice, the Yatun invade Brega's land through Gravenmarch. Out of Ashvale come somewhere in the region of 40 or 50,000 Yatun. The gates of the Burfest open wide and the garrison joins the battle. Orcs from the Ice Fishers and mighty armoured warriors drawn from the realm of the stone-crowned monarch. Several thousand more warriors of the Summer Realm, red and scarlet armoured knights, fight with them for the glory of their mistress, the Lady of Penance. The town of Sallow and most of the rushes fall beneath their banners almost before anyone realises what is going on. They then push west and north to the Grey Fens and North Fens. For all their force, the orcs of the western Jarldoms have come cautiously into Brega's land, not as a rampaging storm as they did when they took Mornwald. Some of the defenders are able to use clever ruses to play on the orc superstitions about the wetlands, and a well-timed ghost story turns out to be nearly as useful as an armed raid against a poorly positioned supply dump. The exception to this careful strategy is the Corathon. The Lysambrian army seems to have little fear of the marshes, and indeed seems mostly enthused about the idea of seizing the winter supplies from Brega's barns and looting their storehouses. A major raid is launched against Eel's Landing, but between the strong reeds and the Greywaters and a lot of carefully positioned lanterns, most of the warband is lost in the fens for the better part of a week, and when they reach the market town, they find it mostly deserted and its wealth spirited away to who knows where. Thwarted and frustrated, the Lysambrians go in search of easier meat, and soon turn their attention on the breadbasket, the network of granaries and storehouses that cross the territory. This time, even the courage of the reeds and the tricks of the Greywaters are not enough to stop them. The grain they pillage is precious, even if it isn't the wealth they had hoped to claim from Eel's Landing, and its loss is a bitter blow that will be felt by every farmer in Brega's Land in the coming season. As is their wont, though, the Yatun do not touch places tied to faith or the spirits of the fallen. Some Godi make a point of visiting Sabby's Mound, where they engage in a ceremony of some kind, apparently intended to honour the spirits of those who fell during the invasion of 383YE. Others make a pilgrimage, of a sort, of Fisher's Rock, although their ceremonies there are much more sombre. The legacy of Matilda Fisher is complicated, it seems, even for the Yatun. The last time they came, the barbarians put a false queen on a shaky throne. This time, they are simply here to conquer, for themselves and for their ancestors. They offer the choice, as always, even to those who have been given the chance to take it once before. Some seem eager to see the Yatun return. The Clakes of Beandown actually welcome the barbarians. There's a rumour that the outlaw head of the family, Sammy Clake, met with Stephen of Sarkham and pledged his entire household to the aid of the Yatun, as long as they were prepared to promise them vengeance against their neighbours. By all accounts, the traitor Stephen was more than happy to welcome the Clakes to his side. Marching ever forward. The Clakes are very much in the minority, however. For all their problems with the Empire, these are marcher people, and they do not accept conquest easily. There is only so much that individuals can do against such an overwhelming host of the Yatun, but the strong reeds are also here. Bound to the people of Brega's Land by oaths and magic alike, they provide hope to those who will not accept the barbarian yoke. If the reeds were not here, the entire territory would have fallen to the Yatun in one fell swoop. As it is, they fight tirelessly, not only to slow the barbarian advance, but to offer whatever aid they can to those who would fight for their homes. Over the course of weeks, with the help of the Reeds, those who would resist the Western barbarians gather at Ottery in eastern Ottermire. It is a mixed bunch, this resistance. There are Greywaters here, and even a few Droverbills, as well as Elvers, Selwyns, and Wheelwrights. And almost immediately, they fall to arguing about the best way to deal with the Attoon and whose fault it is that the Orcs have returned. There are some who argue that the Breggers need to negotiate with the invaders because the Empire has proven time and again that it cannot be trusted. There are some who ask what Bushel Sykes would do, leading to the unhelpful answer, steal someone else's eels, which provokes a fistfight. There are those prepared to lay down their lives rather than submit to the Attoon again, and the whole thing looks set to dissolve into a sullen, resentful, rebellious mess, even as the Attoon storm across the marshes and close on Ottermire. In the end, the soldiers of the Strong Reeds take charge, convince the most contentious to put their arguments back in their pockets until after the meal is done, as the saying goes, and remind the angry Breggers that if they do not all hang together, then they will certainly hang separately. They must put their bitterness aside, for a time at least, and have faith that there is help coming. The causeway into Mittwold represents the best route to escape should it become necessary, but it is also the obvious route for the Imperial allies, for the other Marcher armies, to come to the aid of Breggersland. There is scepticism, but in the end, nobody wants to make things easy for the Attoon. Barricades are erected, weapons and armour distributed, levies called, and yeofolk from one end of Breggersland to the other rally to the cause. There are even a few defenders from Mittwold who come marching along the causeway, recruited by those Strong Reeds who only recently were billeted in Oddmire and Meadmarch, and their presence leads to more arguments as the most hidebound Breggers insist they don't need the help of their kind, of course. While the defences of Ottery are being made ready, the Strong Reeds fight to delay the Attoon. They target supply lines and scouts for the most part, using their superior knowledge of the marshes and their skill with hit-and-run tactics to their best advantage. In every region, even in the rushes where the folk have heard the resentful whispers of the Clakes, they are welcomed and sheltered from the barbarians. In turn, they help those who need to escape to find sanctuary at Ottery, or to pass along Odd's way to Oddmire. The defence of Ottery. There is only so much the Strong Reeds and their allies can do, however. They are massively outnumbered, and even when working together, the disparate factions of Breggersland cannot defeat the might of the Attoon. Yet they do their best, and sometimes one's best is enough. Barely. As the spring draws near, the Attoon close on Ottery. The town and its environs and Odd's Way are the only part of Breggersland not under the control of the invading Orcs. The future looks grim for the defenders, but it is clear that they do not intend to give ground before the barbarian host. With the Strong Reeds to support them, they will fight, and die if need be, to deny the Orcs complete control of their homeland. They have set aside their pride for the moment, and bound their loyalty to great things around them like armour. Yet for all their outward cooperation, the defenders of Breggersland are still divided. The fracture lines run deep here, following the fallout around the reign of Matilda Fisher and the Attoon occupation. It remains to be seen whether those cracks can be glued, or whether this invasion will see the fragile unity of the marshes shatter irrevocably into 1,000 pieces. Game information. Mournwald. The two Marcher armies have made significant headway in the Mournwald, driving the Attoon out of the Ore Hills and then turning their attention north toward the Chalk Downs. They are a little less than 2/5 of the way towards retaking that region as well. The Attoon still control the Chalk Downs, and both the Greenswood and Farstriders' Watch are dominated by veteran champions in their warbands. There had been no Jotun armies active in the territory this season. Breggersland. The presence of the Strong Reeds is the only thing that has stood between the Attoon host and complete control of Breggersland. As it is, the territory has been almost entirely conquered and is no longer imperial. This means that the Senator, Willem Tarn, has lost their seat, and the territory cannot be targeted by rituals from the Imperial Regio. Being bound by common cause and oath sworn to protect Breggersland has significantly helped the Strong Reeds to encourage the people of the territory to put aside their differences and resist the Attoon. It seems unlikely that they will be able to prevent the Orcs conquering the whole of the territory by themselves, however, unless something unexpected happens. There are more opportunities for the Strong Reeds to exploit their unique position in a future Wind of War. One effect of the hard work done by the strong reeds and their close work with the people of the territory is that they have helped the Breggers conceal much of their wealth from the invading orcs. For the moment, personal resources in the territory do not suffer the conquered territory penalty, and as long as the strong reeds remain in Breggersland, they won't suffer that penalty even if the Attoon take Ottermire. Sadly, thanks to the persistence of the Lysambrians, the Breggersland portion of the Imperial breadbasket has been utterly looted. No Marcher farm in the territory will gain any benefits from the breadbasket in the coming season. Participation. Breggers. Characters from Breggersland are encouraged to think about what the invasion means for them and how their household is faring. The presence of the strong reeds has ensured that anyone who wants to do so could have become part of the resistance against the Attoon invasion, perhaps even joining the desperate defenders at Ottery. Battle opportunity. To glory at the end. The Imperial prognosticators have identified a major conjunction of the Sentinel Gate that will allow the heroes of the Empire to intercede in Breggersland. The conjunction leads to the vicinity of Ottery, and it is believed it will provide an opportunity to help defend the town from the Attoon advance.